Hello and welcome to the African Tech Roundup. This is episode 34 for the week ending Monday, December 7th. And you know how we do on the show. We round up the week's most important tech, digital, and innovation news from across the African continent. My name is, of course, Alliy Masugu, and with me is my good friend and co-host on the African Tech Roundup, back from his hiatus, dealing with family business last week. Defo Mohapi, how's it, dude?
I'm good, dude. You know how the rappers say, what do they say? They try to rhyme it. Let me try and remember what. Oh, they go, hi haters. I'm back from my hiatus. Anyway, you guys are not my haters. Love you all.
Guy came back with some swag dripping off his chin. Anyway, listen, it's our last live to tape show of the year for the next 4 weeks, starting next week in place of our regular podcast programming. We'll be sharing exclusive content from the annual Roundup 2015 event we hosted at the Wanderers Club Johannesburg 2 weeks ago.
And you can look forward to listening to some conversations we had at the event, which were about the year in tech around the continent, with a focus on enterprise, startups, and gadgets and apps.
That's right. Next week, we'll kick things off by sharing a chat we had with Senior Investment Executive at Rand Merchant Insurance Holdings, Dominique Collett-Antalik, and CEO and founding partner at Convergence Partners, Brandon Doyle. Now, it was a conversation that broadly covered issues in tech specific to enterprise, and because of their background, our chat did lean towards fintech and telecoms issues, but we covered a lot of interesting ground in many other areas, so you do not want to miss that.
And if you're joining us for the first time, guys and girls, you simply must head straight to africantechroundup.com to catch up on what you've been missing out on. And do yourself a favor by signing up to our weekly newsletter to get the podcast sent straight to you every Monday morning.
That's right, and for fun behind-the-scenes stuff, daily news bites, and candid commentary we know you'll dig, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle on both platforms is @African Roundup. We're also on Facebook, like the rest of the world. Check us out on facebook.com/African Tech Roundup. But before we get to the rest of the show, it's important for us to let you know that this week's African Tech Roundup is supported by Google, who hooked up our team with some Google Cardboards to try out. Now, a huge cheer is in order because they've also given us some to give away to you, our podcast listeners. Google Cardboard brings immersive virtual reality experiences to everyone in a simple and affordable way. Check them out at google.com/get/cardboard. It's google.com/get/cardboard.
So well done to Brett Steingo, Naingeni, and Lorato Tenkeng, who won Google Cardboards for their insightful questions and contributions at the annual Roundup 2015. Also, there were some cool tweeps who also won Google Cardboards. Those were at company_21, at InstinctiveFSA, at Claudia_F, and at TechGirlZA. They won because of their live tweet on the day.
But don't take our word for how awesome these little devices are. Here's one of the winners from the annual roundup, Lee Julius of Company 21, with his impressions of the Google Cardboard he won.
So when I opened the pack for the Google Cardboard, there were a lot of numbers. And initially I thought I'd need a PhD. I thought it would take forever to build the cardboard. But it took around just under 2 minutes, 1 minute 58 seconds. And it was actually virtually easy. It was really easy to make this box. I suppose the next question is, what content do you watch on Google Cardboard? Well, you can go at it two ways. The first is there is an app called Cardboard on the Play Store, and that just directs you to other little apps that give you virtual reality experiences. The second option, and the option that I loved the most, was YouTube actually has a setting now where you can watch your videos in Cardboard, and I love it because it gives all the videos this 3D, this surreal, this virtual reality feel. But all in all, I do think it's a great little device. I think it's excellent for gifts if you on a budget. We found one online for 150 Rand, which is really cool, and Christmas season is coming up. So the rating, I guess we give Google a strong 8 out of 10. Good on you, Google. We do think that this is the perfect gift for tech junkies, and it's really cool, it's really easy, it's really small, it's really cheap, and it's just the best gift for us for this up-and-coming Christmas season.
Well, thanks to Google, we've got 2 more Google Cardboards to give away, and if you'd like to win one, Stay tuned till the end of the podcast for a question you'll need to email us an answer to. Stick around.
And in this week's listener comment segment, we have quite a treat because at AfriCoin Joburg, which happened at Alpha Code last week, Thursday, Andile ran into two rather impressive fellow Zimbos, or Zimbabweans as they're popularly known. They are fintech startup founders who are making waves in their country. Here they are sharing a little bit about their businesses as well as commenting on the state of play in Zimbabwe's tech ecosystem.
Hi, I'm Tawanda Kemba. I'm from Harare, Zimbabwe. I'm working on BitFinance, a startup which is making it super easy for people who want to buy Bitcoin to buy them and people who want to sell Bitcoin to sell them.
I'm Vusindebele. I'm from WebDev in Zimbabwe. The product I'm here about today is PayNow, which is our online payments gateway, which is the only payment gateway in Zim, fully integrated with Visa, MasterCard, as well as the mobile wallet, EcoCash, Telecash, and our local switching platform, ZimSwitch.
Okay, but you've been involved in several other platforms as well. What would we be more familiar with if we didn't know PayNow?
Okay. You'd probably be more familiar with our marketplace, classifieds.co.zw, and our property vertical, property.co.zw, which are the two largest classified sites in Zim.
I'll ask you, Tawanda, to tell me, what's the appeal in using Bitcoin? The average Zimbabwean who probably has access to EcoCash or any number of other sort of money remittance options. Why BitFinance and why Bitcoin to start with?
Usually our customers have two reasons for using Bitcoin. So one is we already have means of sending money, stuff like EcoCash, mobile money is what we know it is. But Bitcoin transcends the limitations of mobile money. So you can't really use mobile money across borders. So I can't send money via EcoCash to someone in Botswana or someone in Mogadishu, but with Bitcoin I can. The second reason is people who want to reduce transaction fees. So think about it. It costs about 10 to 15% of the money you're sending when you send it via Western Union, if you're sending it across a border. So with Bitcoin, it's close to zero, where they are sending $1 or $1,000. So Bitcoin is kind of appealing to people who do business across borders, so they want to move money across borders in a very cheap and easy way.
What have you identified at PayNow as a pain point that you're solving?
We're set up as a payment service provider, serving both businesses who want to receive payments from their customers and have real-time notification of payment and easily reconcilable statements. For their customer, we're offering them the opportunity to pay their business without restrictions on time or place and using their preferred payment instrument. So the appeal really is to both sides. We're trying to make sure that your customer really doesn't ever have an excuse not to pay you.
Currency is always a buzzword in Zimbabwe. What challenges have you found in getting people to trust not just your platform in the case of BitFinance, but the currency itself?
I think the biggest challenge is just to educate people, so people don't understand it. They think it's kind of too complicated, and it is for someone who's new to Bitcoin, and that has been our biggest challenge so far. But also, we're still in beta and testing it. We only went live with our beta version on 16 September 2015. Because we're still kind of in beta, we're not marketing aggressively, and we are just growing slowly, which is what we want right now. Is we're still focused on building out the platform.
Can I ask you a simple question? What does Zimra think of you guys?
We haven't started engaging them yet. We've just started engaging an accounting firm called FFG, and they are going to be handling the whole tax compliance stuff for us. Very smart people. They understand Bitcoin very well and our business model very well. I think FFG is going to take care of that.
I'm sure your firm will be seeking to engage the Reserve Bank in similar manner, right?
But we've already started engaging the central bank. So we've had a few meetings. We have a few more meetings coming up. And the reason is we know Bitcoin is kind of like, some regulators like it, some don't. Some like certain aspects of Bitcoin, some don't. So as we're building out our platform, we just want to make sure that we don't want to fight with the regulator. We want to make sure that we make them happy.
And Vusi, your platform, and correct me if I'm wrong, is set up to actually play quite well with the legacy institutions that we have currently. So I know you mentioned in your intro that your platform is integrated with MasterCard and Visa, and I imagine the banks are pretty okay with you guys.
Generally, yes. So the banks and actually the mobile operators actually quite like having an aggregator like us. Many of them are not set up to deal with hundreds of very small merchants, helping them to integrate, and each of those merchants with I suppose differing levels of expertise. So they're not set up to handle a 3-week integration with a developer who isn't so familiar with the technology that they're working with. So yeah, certainly from our side, although it took a long time to get these relationships set up, we do work very well with all of the partners that we're integrated with. And as new payment channels come up and available on the market, they are always quick to come and ask to work with us.
And does your platform receive Bitcoin?
It doesn't currently receive Bitcoin. The key thing that we provide to our merchants is funds settled directly into their bank account. So for instance, even if their customer pays them from a mobile wallet, from EcoCash or Telecash, we settle it directly into their bank accounts at end of play. So for Bitcoin to be an option, we would need to really kind of understand the regulatory environment around that, and also to make sure that we're able to liquidate that into US currency and settle it along with all the other funds at day end.
Are you guys sort of capitalizing on the fact that a multinational like PayPal hasn't looked at Zimbabwe as a serious place to grow? Do you think that being homegrown is an advantage that someone like PayPal can't easily copy and attack?
Yeah, we're definitely taking advantage of that fact. As well as being just homegrown, and we benefit from our experience in the market and other things that we do. So we develop a lot of software, a lot in the financial services sector. We build a lot of the websites in Zimbabwe. We host a lot of the infrastructure in Zim. So when we built PayNow, we thought immediately a huge amount of innovators would begin to develop applications that integrated with it, and we were a bit disappointed by the pace. So we realized that we really had to actually go in and help customers. So just the availability of a global payments gateway doesn't mean success. You do need, at this early stage, in quite a nascent market like ours, you do need to be actually engaging with the customers to help them align their business processes and actually make the most of online payments.
So, Tawanda, do you think the absence of a national currency in Zimbabwe, or at least a Zimbabwean currency in circulation currently, might make regulators open to the notion of Bitcoin, given that the legal tender currently is the US dollar? They might not have as much to lose as, say, South Africa do, in the worries that an unregulated currency might usurp the country's one.
Yes, I definitely agree with that reasoning. The absence of a national currency is an advantage. And so I see Zimbabwe as the best use case for Bitcoin in the world for that reason. Also, looking at the fact that you can use multiple currency as legal tender, I also see Zimbabwe as having the best exchange control regulations in the world.
Wow, that's quite a statement. I'm hoping as a Zimbo myself that you guys take this one all the way to the bank, because in many respects, I think Zimbabwe is the best example out there for how things technically should run but never do.
Yeah.
Before you go, give me a sense of what the tech scene is like. You've spent an afternoon, or at least a full day at Africoin in Johannesburg, mixing and mingling with some of your contemporaries from across the continent. Based on what you've seen, I know you're not here a lot of the time, but what is your sense as developers, as startup founders, owners of platforms, as integration specialists? Tell me what differences sort of stand out for you between the scene you've observed here in Zimbabwe. Vusi?
I'm impressed actually by the contribution of established players. So, for instance, you will probably find that many tech-oriented conferences in Zim will have a lot of individual developers. It'll really be exclusively people from the tech and dev community. Whereas here we've had, a number of banks here, financial institutions, all sorts of established organizations that are actually here. And I think that contributes to the quality of discussion that we have, and the knowledge that might influence something in these big organizations which really wield the power. So I do think that it would be good if we're able to get the same sort of engagement from big industry, I suppose, in Zim, to make sure that our developers are listening to their problems and the other way around.
And didn't it feel good to listen to big players like Vusi says, people like Dominique Collett at Rand Merchant Insurance Holdings say things like they realize the need for them to partner and harness the enthusiasm, the ideas, the knack for innovation of startups like yours, Tawanda?
Sure. Not only that, but there are these big banks who have cut real checks to startups, and I think that is important to for the ecosystem where you have these you have a lot of institutional support. I think that's important for any startup ecosystem. Something, and in Zimbabwe we're not quite there yet, but hopefully we'll get there soon.
And so what's the hope? What's the end game? This is my last question to you guys. What's the end game for you guys as startup founders? Are you guys chasing acquisition? Are you looking to exit at some point, when someone cuts a check, like you say, Tawanda? Are you here for the long term? Do you have legacy issues that you guys grapple with as you build new brands and new businesses online and create platforms?
We constantly innovate. We, over the last couple of years, have put out a new product onto the market every kind of, maybe 13, 14 months. So we're in the business of continuing to create new things. So as for the things that we've created and whether we would offload them, most definitely at the right price.
All right. And VCs are listening to the podcast right now. Are you saying they should give you a call if they're interested?
Absolutely.
And Tawanda, what about you?
Well, we started Bitfinance to solve a problem, and that is one of the two things which drives us. So we really want to solve this problem and make it super easy for people to buy or sell Bitcoin in Zimbabwe, and then possibly look to Africa. And then the second reason is to create wealth, of course. So we want to make a lot of money for ourselves and our investors.
Fantastic, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to rubbing shoulders with you on home soil. That would be nice. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks a lot for your time, Alliy.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Remember, if you'd like to be part of the show by having us include your audio comment on any of the topics we've discussed today or on any other episode, you can email us using hello@africantechroundup.com. That's hello@africantechroundup.com, or leave us a note on our website.
Come on, Zimbabwe. Come on, Zimbabwe. Zimbos rock, man. And I'm biased. I'm sorry.
You can take Tendai Tawarira back.
Yeah. Never. I'm kidding. No hate.
No, it's all good.
Well, listen, it's up to this week's news. First up, the Nigerian Communications Commission has finally been persuaded to reduce the fine it imposed on MTN by 35%, people. That's taking the amount MTN will now need to pay from 5.2 billion to 3.4 billion. But the fine has to be paid, apparently, by the 31st of December.
Before I even get to the other news, I think we did predict that they will drop it, but I think this somebody blinked, and this is the Nigerian guys, the NCC. So they were sitting across the table, Putuma Tlek on the one side of his team, and the NCC with their team, and they were playing stare at each other and see who blinks first, and Nigeria blinked. And I think it's unfortunate that Nigeria dropped it because they showed that they can be arm twisted. Obviously, we don't know the details of the negotiations and what was agreed to or why it was dropped, but by agreeing to drop a fine that was agreed to in 2011 before the offense happened in 2015 means that they're being a little bit lenient on MTN. Anyway, given that it's been dropped, also another question we raised when we heard the news of the fine was that why only the MTN Group CEO was pushed, which is the way it appeared. But it's also emerged that MTN Nigeria CEO, Michael Ikpoki, has resigned. Obviously, it's a bit of a push.
Not just him, but another key member of his team in Nigeria, head of regulatory and corporate affairs, Akinwale Goodluck, has also resigned. The former chief operating officer and chief financial officer at MTN Nigeria, Ferdi Mulman, will now become the business unit CEO, and Nigerian national Amina Ayagbola will then replace Goodluck as head of regulatory and corporate affairs at MTN Nigeria. I'm just wondering why they stuck around as long as this. They should have just admitted up front that they'd really dropped the ball. Their leader had obviously led the way in sort of saying, I'll take responsibility ultimately. They should have done the right thing. It's probably left a lot sooner.
Negotiations, my man, negotiations.
Oh, they probably thought this would, they'd end up not having to pay anything, in which case their jobs would be secure. 35% less than 5.2 billion, but still a hang of a lot of money.
Hey, dude, what's the difference between 3.4 and 5.2? I think you need to check the other bank accounts. I'm just saying. I'm kidding. It's just a rumor.
Oh, my word, though. And then, look, there's another key employee at MTN, but now at group level, a certain Karel Pinar, who is one of MTN's very first employees, actually. He was MTN's group chief strategy officer, also retiring this past week. Of course, he's hastened to say that he was thinking about retirement for a very long time, and it's time for him to go join his family in Australia. And yeah, let's be honest, sir, you chose a terrible time to leave, and it's pretty darn obvious you're leaving because things are rough.
Yeah, I mean, chief strategy officer retiring when maybe strategy worked, it's in full effect, and his job is done, or it didn't work. But yeah, he just chose. I think he is retiring on. I think it sounds like he's been there for a long time, so he probably was due for retirement. It's just terrible timing.
No doubt, given his net worth, Australia will be happy to have him. In any case, moving on, following the raising of a rumored $2.10 million of equity finance, Kenyan mobile money aggregator and microlender Kopo is set to reduce focus on the Lipa na M-Pesa service, which it had launched in partnership with Safaricom, and they've decided to focus on microlending. A good move?
I think it's realizing that there wasn't much value in Lipa na M-Pesa. I could be wrong, but moving to microlending seems to be the in thing now. Most people or most companies like Kopo, some of them who are in mobile money or mobile payments are shifting towards microlending. But also interesting is that the founders are leaving.
They no doubt haven't bought into the vision that perhaps their investors, and there are quite a few institutional investors, VC interests that are invested in this entity. There's no doubt that they probably don't buy into the vision.
I don't want to comment on Kenyan tech ecosystem stuff after the Angani saga. There might be a bullet with my name on it.
Nah, my guy. But then let's think about it this way. It could be a smart move in as far as we've talked on the show how it's important that startups don't base their entire model, don't create a model that is entirely subservient to an incumbent.
Yeah, true. But I think in this case, yes, it's an opportune time to untie themselves from Safaricom. But I think the key thing in business, I think you know it, I know it. If a business is profitable, why move? Whether it's with Safaricom or not, why drop it? So in this case, I don't think it's because their business model is tied to Safaricom. I just think probably they saw the numbers on microlending and thought it will perform better.
Straight up pivot, I guess. So, well, good luck to them, and good luck to the founders who will no doubt find something else to apply their minds to. But moving on now for some unfortunate news out of Zimbabwe. We obviously started on a high note in terms of Zimbabwe with my homeboys, giving us a sense of what it's like to be a startup founder in Zimbabwe. It's about to get a little harder for quite a few startup founders, or at least aspiring startup founders, because of this very next story. It's fixing to be a gloomy Christmas for the Hypercube Technology Trust, which manages the co-working space Hypercube Hub in Harare. They've announced that they've been unable to secure funding to keep the place open, man.
I mean, I'm going to be a bit cynical here, and probably people are used to me being cynical, but for right reason. I think all hubs should be shut down on the continent simply because they don't have a proper working model. Some barely survive on the income they can make. I think the structure is to either become an accelerator, which funds and has a program. So you put funding in and have a program that you take startups through, or you become a seed fund. But this whole kumbaya, hold hands, and we are a co-working space, but we're an NPO, we don't make profit, but we're trying to make money. It's wishy-washy, there's no clear strategy. Be one or the other.
And a reliance on funding is, to me, just a ridiculous way to to try and navigate the landscape of business in any shape or form, you definitely, like you say, need to think long and hard about creating a viable model, and I suppose waiting for USAID or whoever to to send you money or make you a priority in order for you to stay alive is just no way to succeed in the long term, in which case this was going to happen sooner or later.
Here's the irony about hubs relying on funding from USAID and Indigo Trust and all sorts of other funders. And I'm just naming those because I know them. I'm not saying they're bad. They are good and the money is welcome. The irony is that they say they incubate businesses, yet they can't get their business model right and can't get. So how are you going to tell businesses you incubate how to make money or how to develop a business model when you can't even get your hub model right? So there's a bit of irony there.
And that's true. It takes me back to a conversation we had, probably, I can't remember, was it the second or third episode of this podcast? And you go check it out, where we actually hashed it out, really, just trying to figure out whether, hubs are are actually adding value to the tech ecosystem on the continent or not. And that was an interesting debate. However, we're sad to see these people go. It's unfortunate. Guys in Zimbabwe, you're going to go need to get free internet somewhere else.
Basically, that's what hubs are.
Moving on to the next story, which affected most of Southern Africa, a fault on an orbiting satellite, Amos 5, owned by Spacecom, caused a widespread mobile communication outage last week, affecting Angola, Namibia, Mozambique, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Botswana, South Africa, the DRC, and most of Zambia.
Interesting, but I didn't pick up the disruption. But it's a bit worrying that something like that can happen. But I read that they had other alternative satellites that they navigated traffic to.
Apparently, that's what Zambia specifically actually asked them to do, because I believe of all the countries listed, Zambia was most affected, and they definitely were in touch with Spacecom, asking them to migrate traffic to alternative satellites while they fixed the problem. Let us know if how badly affected, if you're any of the countries we listed, how badly affected you were, and let us know if the problem has persisted or has indeed been fixed, or if you're on the inside of, say, a Spacecom or any one of the mobile operators that are dealing with them directly. Please let us know. Like you say, it is a bit disturbing. One doesn't really think about how important the upkeep of infrastructure we can't see is, and support at a macro level for our region is, and only things like this make you think about it.
Yeah, and it's worrying that it's a single point of failure. I mean, one satellite can put out so many countries. So, yeah, need to dig deeper into this.
Absolutely. Well, following the recent close of public comment on South Africa's new cybercrime bill in November, press and internet freedom groups are continuing to slam regulators, with some demanding that submissions be made public. Of course, the regulator saying what we will make public is the updates we make to the laws, not what you want to hear, or not everything everyone's been saying.
Yeah, that part I get, but I think this is just the formality, this process. Look, if ANC is majority, and yeah, this might get me in trouble. It's majority, so if any of their members raise a bill and want it to be passed, it will be passed, whether we like it or not.
And look, now I'm sort of the socialist in me, and we had an argument about me being a socialist or not the other day. Interestingly, I'd call myself a social capitalist, and I sort of side with regulators, or at least I have a heart for them on this issue. They have real problems around cybercrime and protecting the public, a real mandate to do that. Obviously, like you say, a lot of political objectives start to seep into the issue. But come on, lobbyists, we all know that you're probably using this very issue to sort of back your funding drives and stuff like that. The truth is, they're going to come back to us and hopefully factor in everything we've said we don't like with the bill. There really isn't a need for us to see what everybody said about everything. I don't know. At the same time, government regulators, why are you posturing as though there's something to hide? I think there's a little bit of annoyance I have with both sides.
I agree with you fully on that. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to hide what the comments were. And it also, on the other side, doesn't make any sense to fight to see who said what. Yes, what if they said something contrary to what the bill says? That's fine. what if the bill goes ahead irrespective of what they said? Does it matter? On the other side, if government is hiding it, maybe they're hiding Jacob Zuma, disagreed with certain parts. I'm just making an example. Or maybe a member of the ANC disagreed with certain parts. Or maybe a member of the DA, the opposition, agreed with certain parts, or EFF or whatever. So maybe that's why they're hiding it, because they're protecting people. I don't know. But to me, it's neither here nor there.
And of course, because of our democratic process, which in this case might be inconvenient for you if you don't appreciate this law being passed, will, like you said, make sure that the majority passes what they see fit. And in this case, the ANC is the majority, and they'll pass whatever suits their interest. In which case, you just need to chill. Whether you know what was written or not, what will pass will pass.
Yeah, this is the democracy we signed up for. The one who gets the most votes wins. In this case, it's the ANC. Unfortunately, fortunately, depending on which side of the fence, just deal with it.
It's rough, it's rough. Anyway, listen, our final news story today involves Africa's biggest media company by miles and one of the most valuable stocks currently trading on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you guessed it, Naspers. Now, they've come out with a plan to float 17.1 million ordinary shares in order to raise $2.5 billion to fund their expansion plans.
They want to raise their shareholding within Russia's Avito, an e-commerce site, from 17.4% to 67.9%, it is rumored. And that's going to cost them roughly $1.2 billion. And apparently, as a result of this, they've the South African Reserve Bank and the Russian Federal Anti-Monopoly Service have given the deal a thumbs up.
Yeah, and turns out they also have quite a few other plans to fund acquisitions in other internet and e-commerce companies, there's no doubt a lot of trust that they will do very well at doing what they say they want to do, if their past investments are anything to go by.
Yeah, I mean, the Naspers, I think, have nailed the formula for investing in tech companies and digital startups to the T. So they've got great experience in that area and media as well. So I'm no doubt have confidence that this is probably a well-calculated move on their side, and also as part of their worldwide expansion plans.
I expect the shares they're floating to be totally oversubscribed. I can already see a scramble beginning even now.
Yeah, definitely. But I've got other issues with Naspers, but let's not go there.
Yeah, let's not go there for now. Now we're going to move on. In place of our weekly discussion, we're going to share an impromptu chat we had with Mbwana Alliy. Now, Mbwana is the founder and managing partner at Savannah Fund, an Africa-focused technology venture capital fund that runs both an accelerator and seed investments in e-commerce, gaming, education technology, and social networking. So we caught up with Mbwana at AfriCoin Joburg this past week, and initially he and I were chatting alone, and then Stefo joined in, and the conversation just got more and more interesting, and we just thought, we must definitely share the whole thing. We thought we might just get a few sound bites for you guys. It just got so much fun.
Yeah, it's a bit long, guys, but there are loads of great insights, so you should enjoy this. And we also put him on the spot regarding the recent Angani saga, and he's very honest and open about it. And also, since we'll be away for some weeks, we thought, what the heck, let's play the whole thing for you. But don't worry, we don't record all our conversations when we meet you. It's just this one, with permission.
Okay, so without any further ado, here it is. Photography enthusiast, what else would surprise me about you?
I like hiking, and I'm a recent botanist. Okay. I discovered a national park in Tanzania that's called Kitolo Plateau, which is a highland plateau with flowers on it, unique orchids. So I extended my photography and started doing botanist, just taking photos of cataloging flowers. Because I realized that in that parts of Africa there are places where there are species that have not been discovered yet. So I just thought that's pretty cool. I'm adventurous. I like to find cool stuff. Just like startups, I like to find cool startups. It also extends to other parts of my life. I like to discover cool places that no one else has been to. And Kitolo Plateau, maybe I'm giving it away now, but they do need the tourism because it's very low. But it's an amazing place. So I like travel a lot. Travel is, yeah.
And so we were talking offline while I was trying to get this Mac to work. So all of you Mac haters, they do stutter sometimes, folks.
Rarely, but they do. Yeah. Very rarely, but they do.
And they do. And so I had while I was busy restarting the computer so that we could get this conversation on the road, you were telling me all the podcasts you listen to. And I'm offended, sir, that you haven't playlisted the African Tech Roundup or African Tech Conversations.
Yes, I've been seeing it, and I've actually not. Is it available on Stitcher?
It's on. It should be. In fact, yes.
I'm going to add it now. So because I have my phone on me, because that's my primary podcast device, and you can see here, I'm showing you on the front of my phone is Stitcher, right in the middle. It's the most middle like app. Like I can't miss it, right? Like I'm not having to flip through the phone. And you know, like you can you tell a man's iPhone by the front homepage screen.
Absolutely, you can.
I think you guys talked about that once, did you not?
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely, you can.
I think once. I think you emailed me or someone emailed me from your group saying that. Could you tell us what could you send us a picture of your homepage? But on my homepage, Stitcher is number one.
How come not iTunes? Surprisingly, I mean,
Stitcher is just works really well. I can resume the podcast. I can take it offline easily. So I have it set, for example, when on Wi-Fi, take everything offline. So, for example, now when I look for a Tech Roundup, Africa Tech Roundup, right?
African Tech Roundup.
It should come up and automatically, do the first 3 episodes. So I'll add it here. There it is. So
and of course we're on there.
Oh yeah, look at all these great podcasts I should listen to. Safaricom becomes the latest mobile provider. Subisu, Angani, which I know about a lot. We're going to talk about that.
We're going to talk about that because
Igua, and Rebecca, yep. So now it's on my thing. It's going to be downloaded, and I'm going to be listening to it because the next flight I get onto, because I travel a lot, nothing worse than a 16-hour flight to SF from Africa. Guess what I'm going to be listening to? It's all these podcasts that are on my phone, including this Tech Roundup. So
we're going to hold you to that, actually. So well done. Tell me about this crazy life of yours. You're obviously part of the new wave of venture capital hitting African shores, except you're sort of returning home, and you've decided to...
I'm glad you brought that up because, it's very easy to burn yourself out. Entrepreneurs or venture capitalists, because, when you're starting a fund, it's like anything. You're giving birth to an entity. And I laugh when I'm here in South Africa because, every other person moving to Cape Town, I'm like, no, I want Joburg. Like, Joburg is like cool. Like, I want to see more of the action. But I'm always suspicious when people are moving to Cape Town from Joburg because it's a lifestyle decision. But are they going to be as effective as they are when I met them in Joburg?
And given that you've invested in firms that are based in Cape Town, and I mean, you're spending a lot more time in Joburg here, what's your sense of the scene between the two places?
So actually, I'll quickly say that compared with Nairobi, right? So I'm Tanzanian, and Tanzanians have like a more calm demeanor than Kenyans, but I'm very hyper Tanzanian. I'm very different because I was educated in the West Coast, and so when I come to Kenya, I love it. It's high energy, but I still need my Tanzania roots. So that's part of the reason I moved. And so Joburg and Cape Town reminds me of the same thing. Like, I can see myself spending 3 or 4 years in Joburg, burning out almost, or moving for a lifestyle decision and go to Cape Town. But I'd be worried that you have to be able to easily get back and forth. So the best thing about Joburg, Cape Town is you can actually have it both. But how many flights a day do you have between Joburg and Cape Town? Like, I think 15, 16? So, like, it's between Nairobi and Dar es Salaam, it's maybe 8 or 9. I'm moving to Arusha in northern Tanzania, so I can drive up to Nairobi and I can fly down with Fastjet 3 times a day to Dar and then get to South Africa easy as well. So this is about positioning me to be closer to Southern Africa, but also still close to Nairobi. And also, I might, by some nationalistic chance, invest in a Tanzanian company, which I've not done yet, out of 21 investments.
Sam, your homies must be a little sore about that.
I'm actually concerned that Magufuli will call me and be like, what will Magufuli do? Invest in lean Tanzanian startups. So, like, I probably will have to in the end invest. But I've been seeing stuff in Tanzania. It's just that Kenya can suck a lot of energy out of you. I mean, Kenya is Kenya. It's great for many reasons, but one of them is also it's very, very dynamic with a lot of people coming in. So I'll give you an example. Like yesterday, someone called me, a Swedish entrepreneur, called me saying like, "Hey, are you in Nairobi?" I'm like, "No, I'm in Joburg." Like, "I'd like to pick your brain." I'm like, "No, you can't pick my brain. Like, I just can't physically do informational interviews with every wannabe entrepreneur or entrepreneur who wants to understand a certain industry in Kenya because it's just." I guess I understand how Eric feels now a little bit because he plays that role a lot in Nairobi, like, you know, kind of like the person who everyone goes to and asks for advice. But I can't do that. I'm an venture capitalist. We have 21 companies now. I have to help them. So I have to step off that role of like educating everyone, right?
And it's interesting.
That's also part of the reason why I'm moving to Tanzania is that so that I can be more objective in the Pan-Africa. I'm a Pan-Africanist, right? And so
So tell me about you mentioned Eric. I imagine you speaking about Eric Hirschman.
Yes, Eric Hirschman. He's a part of the fund, but also runs Brick is he runs that as COO, founder of Ushahidi and iHub as well. So that whole ecosystem he's involved in.
What do you make of the hoi polloi surrounding the issues at I almost said Andela. At Angani?
Yes, so it was actually I cut my trip short. I was meant to be in Nigeria for longer and go to Accra to help, with Africoin, there. But I as soon as I heard, because I was in the US fundraising, which I do a lot of, and I heard about the story through actually blogs like yourselves and others. And I was like, okay, this is bad. And I got all the emails as well from the board and the company. So, but I really didn't, you never get a sense of what's really going on. So I actually made it a priority to come back to Nairobi early before this trip as well to Joburg and talk to Fariz. He's actually the only person I talked to so far. Like face-to-face in a coffee, like understand, because I just noticed that was the bit that I was missing the most. Gotten like the board, because Eric's on the board, I'd gotten that communication. I'd seen what the PR, I heard from customers even. For example, Sendi was one of the customers, which is one of our other investments, right? Latest investments in Kenya, Sendi, which is Safaricom and invested as well, and they were using Angani. And also some big clients were affected as well. So I wanted to understand what happened. And my conclusion is that, and you probably saw this on Savannah Fund Twitter, as I did a poll on, are African startups ready for governance, actually? Are they ready for, because when you raise a serious round with institutional investors, you typically have to form a board. And actually, the accelerator where, we spend a lot of our time, and people think it's a joke, right? Oh, accelerator, you're just throwing away money. No, like we put more effort into educating the entrepreneurs about what it means to have a board. So I think actually, I'm not saying they should have gone down an accelerator, but I'm saying that they probably didn't understand the board dynamics well enough. So for example, there's a phrase called stacking your board, right? Which is basically saying that when you have a party, you may want to invite your friends, not your enemies. Very simply put, right? And I think the tension was that some entrepreneurs or in Africa in general, investing, risk capital is so hard to get that you often just rush and get the capital and not understand who is actually involved. They may be all well and good, but you have to choose who's going to be in your board. It's early in VC space in Africa, right? And so if you look at the mature, let's say Sequoia or like any of these big, Andreessen Horowitz, if you're launching a startup and you got a term sheet from Sequoia or Andreessen Horowitz, and you were told that Ben Horowitz or Andreessen was going to be on your board, you'd be like, whoa, like you should actually value that board position more than you would the money. I don't think that is quite yet there, right? So what I'm saying is that it's very early. Even I only sit technically on like 2 or 3 boards, but I'm not exercising those board positions. I don't influence the company through the board, right? I influence the most through the accelerator. But when we, for some South African companies, like when we invest in South African companies, in Cape Town, and we've done 3. The board is quite locally based, and the governance is quite locally central. I just show up and say, hey, when you guys come to Kenya or Tanzania, I can help out. But I don't have a board seat and I don't have much influence. But, it may be in the future if we could follow on invest. And as part of the investment, we're taking them to East Africa. Maybe I might take a board seat. But I only ask to be on the board if I'm required. I think with Angani, I don't think Fariz, Brian, and Riaz really understood the dynamics between having Eric from Savannah Fund and Miguel from Investor Development on the board. So like I've talked to startups now who look at that and say like I'm simulating myself what happens if I split with, because in the end Riaz and Fariz basically split, and that then caused divisions. And it's a 5-person board for a reason. So you're gonna have to take sides. People took sides for whatever reason they had to take. I don't know enough about the company. You should really ask Eric more about what his side of the story. But essentially, the board was stacked against Fariz and Brian. But look, who are the founders?
So we heard today some people from institutional players talking about how fundamentally, at a very basic level, all the world's best fintech startups, the last thing they want is to be acquired, or the last thing they want is to be controlled, or their sort of entrepreneurial sense and their sense of innovation and excitement and their power usurped. How much of that is at play in the African startups you've observed, and how much of that was at play in the Sangani case?
So I can't comment because again, Eric is on the board. I'm not, right? But I think you have to take investor relations seriously. You have to take investor relations seriously. So if you're going to take money from any corporate VC or any VC, you should ask who's going to be on the board and do I like that person? And what are the chances of them leaving or changing their mind about how they feel about the company? Like, you have to really. The problem is that there's not enough choice in getting private equity investment or venture capital investment in Africa for people to be able to say, okay, we have 5 term sheets from 5 investors in Africa, and we're going to pick, and 2 or 3 of them are like the same price, and 2 of them have really weird board members we don't really want to work with. We don't like them. We didn't get a good vibe. I mean, this is Silicon Valley, the show, right? What happens when that guy dies? The eccentric billionaire guy dies, and then the new board member comes on board, like the woman. Remember, so like that didn't happen with Angani, but I'm saying that there isn't enough choice for entrepreneurs to decide. Look, we gel with this firm well. I think so. The one thing about Angani as well is that Fariz and Riaz were close to Eric for obvious, and so that made it easy for Eric to help connect them to investor development.
And in your view, this is just normal course of business. This is nothing to worry about. This happens all the time in a healthy startup ecosystem. It should actually be expected.
Yeah, it should be expected. I just think that we did a VC course. We brought Knife Capital and University of Cape Town to South Africa, to Kenya, and Farid was actually in that class for a little bit. And no, you have to understand who's on your board. Like, even I have to decide with Savannah Fund at some point when I grow up. So I'm still like not growing up as a VC. I'm still, my investors who invested in me in the first fund are Dave McClure, Tim Draper, a bunch of family offices. They trust me, right? And they don't need me to be. And the fund is low in size, so I can innovate and try stuff. AfriCoin, like, that's something we came up with, like, But I think many startups they don't need a board too early. Like, it may constrain them. So just like the same thing as selling too early, right? So I think startups in the seed round shouldn't form serious boards. That's the conclusion that I would say. Because Zangani was doing well, and the founder disputes could have been resolved without a board, I think.
Okay, and so moving on now.
It's really, really a big issue at play here. And actually, South Africa has the 3 investments we made in South Africa have shown excellent governance. It's very much, I get literally end of the month, I get a nice email with all the stats, metrics. It's much harder to get those in other parts of Africa, actually. Like, they see boards as like formalities that we just have to know. But here they're taken seriously, right? People actually, have
actual minutes and stuff.
Minutes, and it helps if you do it in a wine farm or make it nice, but they take them seriously. They're like serious. It actually is surprising because, in Kenya you'll see banks publish the financial statements in the paper, which I'm like, whoa, that's amazing governance. But you don't see in startups like the translation of like, do you produce? For example, Malaika, who's one of my associate return principal, she joined Sendi as a COO. And also Meshach of Sendi also was at the VC course, and they get it. Like, they understand the issues around the board, and they had to form a board with Safaricom investing because they wouldn't invest with right. But they thought through exactly what that is. I just think that with the Angani case, that just wasn't thought through very well. And also, it's also kind of also Savannah Fund's fault a little bit. Because I requested that Eric be on the board of Angani because Eric knows Fariz and I said that would be awesome because they get along and
it's your fault. It is all your fault, sir.
I would say no. It's
I'm messing with you, really.
It's a good question. So this is interesting because I checked in with Angani now and then, and things seem to be doing well, right? I noticed a little bit of tension between the 2 founders. As in Riaz and Fariz,
but that's not uncommon.
Not uncommon. It's just that the board mess ended up. And I just don't know enough about what happened because I'm not on the board.
One question: don't you think there should have been some leadership from the board, like Eric?
So, to be honest, first of all, we have to ask who put in the most money into that deal. And it wasn't really Savannah Fund. It was investment development. So I think if the leadership, it should come from them. So you should try and get hold of Miguel and ask him what actually happened because, But also Eric's put in a tight spot because he is trying to play the sort of ecosystem player because he's trying to connect investor development into Kenya. I don't play that role. I as I said earlier, I don't try and be. I try and reduce my exposure to be the story around Kenya, Nairobi tech scene. I try and do my job investing, and so I think, and also Eric also runs Brick, which investor development I've also invested in.
So do you know?
You can figure out it's hard for Eric.
So let's talk let's speak to the point that you just raised now.
I just think it's hard for Eric because he's doing that, and you should ask the person who holds the most influence is typically the investor with the most money, and actually underlying this is actually who's on the ground. You should ask, did investor development have someone on the ground? Did they sense these issues? Did they resolve why did they back Riaz over Fariz? So that's for them to answer, because in the end they are the one who orchestrated everything, I think.
And you know what? Let's speak to the
that I know of, because maybe it represents investor development. I don't know.
So
you should know your linkages with every single. So if say you were related to me, and now we're doing this podcast, we might have some weird biases come up, right? And maybe I actually. So I mean, everyone knows Savannah Fund sponsors and founded AfriCoin. It's very clear, right? I think people, if you look at the Angani deal, they were, interesting links, right? For example, Savannah Fund loves iHub because we can partner with Eric and get good deal flow, and there's a relationship between Savannah Fund and iHub. I think investor development has a relationship with Eric because they also invested in Brick, right? And that's great because investor development can also, use Eric to kind of get into other deals. It's a relationship business a lot of the times, right? That's kind of what I think we have to be careful of and disclose some of the links and what it might mean in terms of conflict.
So let's talk about a broader issue.
You don't want to see me fighting with my mother or my dad or my sister in a family. Family businesses.
Not pretty.
They can end in disaster. Watch Godfather, watch whoever you want to watch, right?
So what about this broader issue that was raised by a lot of bloggers? It just hit the Twitter sphere, went totally berserk over this notion that investors, greedy Western investors who don't really care or aren't entirely invested in the future and the well-being of Africa's tech ecosystem, swoop in with dodgy profit motives, edge people out, and sort of is that an extreme view that has no basis in this case, do you think? It's
a very extreme view, and I think Eric's post tried to nail it, but I don't think he did it was a good post as far as I was concerned, but it didn't resonate necessarily with everyone. That's why because I deal with that all the time. And the reason why this comes up is because people sometimes think I'm Kenyan, right? And there are photos of me wearing a Kenyan, rugby shirt with pay kind in Silicon Valley, and but I have invested in 9 Kenyan companies and I've invested in 0 Tanzanian companies, right? So I'm a foreign investor in Kenya, investing in 9 startups. Ask I challenge you to find maybe Village Capital can come close to that as being the only other foreign investor in the tech space or in the early stage space who's invested as many companies. Maybe ADA and PH, but my
now they're just sort of culling their interest slowly. It will probably have one eventually, maybe by the end.
but they were pioneers early.
I'm messing. I'm just.
But so the reason I say is that people always ask why aren't more Kenyans investing in Kenya tech, right? When it comes to South Africa, I hear South Africans complain that the VCs are very conservative and blah, 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 but they do invest eventually, right? In Kenya, there is not many local investors, and so that only leaves foreign investors. And if you scare them away, then it's bad. So one of the things I always talk about is MV2s, right? Have you ever heard the term MV2s?
No. What are those?
So one of the things that I do a lot in Nairobi is I spend a lot of time outside of the iHub, surprisingly, right?
No.
Yeah. So you'll see me in Westlands, and I'll talk to some rich, Kenyan, and I'll be like, hey, why aren't you investing in tech startups? And, that's MV2s. So MV2s, V2s is things in Swahili. So M things. So M things, M everything, like M Copa, pick your M, and I tweeted this once, in Kenya, it's about, investing in the M, insert your vowel noun,
The M items.
So I noticed something very interesting in Kenya is where some of the wealthier Kenyans who were saying no, we don't want to invest in the MV2s because that's a foreigner thing. So even they were like thinking like, no, this is a playground for foreigners to like invest in tech. We don't believe in it. The real investors make money in real estate, which yes, you do make money in real estate, but it's a long-term play, right? It's like the minute there's an exit, of substantial size in Kenya, people will start to play local ecosystem. And that's what we pray for. Like, that's what we need at some point, right?
And you're saying people need to be appreciative of what interest we have had or what interest we're able to attract and be fair in understanding that the dynamics of what it takes to get a startup off the ground, especially one the size of, say,
and Angani actually is interesting because I think they actually were doing pretty good, right? And I think they probably might still do pretty good, depending if they can recover from this fallout.
Do you think that's part of the issue, that that we don't have enough sort of huge runaway successes to sort of point to, such that when things like this happen at Angani and others, we just sort of nail?
This ecosystem is very interesting. So you probably all, I think I read it at some blog yesterday that M-Kopa raised $19 million from Richard Branson, Steve Case, all these foreigners.
There's that M thing again.
M-Kopa. But M-Kopa is not a Kenyan startup. M-Pesa is not a Kenyan invention.
Thank you, Vodafone.
Yes. So actually I think the real thing underneath that is that Kenyans are wary that foreigners, not only investors, but also entrepreneurs, come in and take in all the spoils market.
There you go. Listen.
So I am proudly one of we Savannah Fund like to invest in Africans in Africa. So we've only done maybe 2 exceptions, Tony of NS Education and maybe Bainu, or I guess a Zimbabwean living in Australia. But every other company out of 21, so 19 is a local founder. Like Kenyan in Kenya, Ugandan in Uganda, Nigerian in Nigeria, Ghanaian in Ghana, South African in South African. So we think that's very important, and I think it will override any issues we ever see around foreign investment, because we're backing for low. But I think if you look at like the M-Kopas and Bridge Academy and all the successes in Kenya, a lot of them are actually foreign founded and have taken foreign capital, and it's much easier to do that, and they can raise a lot of money.
So what advice would you give to foreigners coming in? So you've spoken a lot to. Yeah. So what would you say to people like Eric who haven't entered the market yet but are looking at it and going, I could make a difference in this ecosystem? What are the things to look out for?
Easy, I think. I think you have to find a local partner who can be on the investment team,
like a partner, not a protege, an actual partner.
And you let them make the mistakes.
Not a token.
No. It has to be a Kenyan in Kenya or Tanzania in Tanzania that is from that country, knows the ecosystem, and this is the most important part. And you have to give them the business card that says they represent, London FinTech Fund or Silicon Valley Growth Fund or, Cape Town, Africa Pan Africa Fund. Whatever that says on the business card, so everyone knows where the money is coming from. But they're local and they're hired and they're on the pay and they live in that country or ideally or in the region. And this is the most important bit. Really, really important bit. They need to have a pot of money they can deploy without the central foreign influence. And it can be low. And it can be like, say FinTech fund in New York coming into Nairobi has $50 million to play with in Africa, right? They should probably give the guy in Kenya or gal in Kenya maybe $1 million to play with 20 startups over 2-3 years, and blank you get full disclosure. You make
carte blanche.
You make mistake, carte blanche. You make mistakes, it's fine. And then from those 20, let's see what you do. And then when we start trying to write like the $10 million checks, then you have to like report back up to New York and convince them that this company is worth it.
But then who's doing this though? Who?
Not many of them are doing it. Maybe Acumen Fund a little bit, but there's always Media. They tend to have centralized investment committees. They have high investment thresholds right when they start, and so because capital requirements are not high, to get going, so they should use the opportunity to do a seed fund to, and also the one thing I've heard is that they just don't. Oh, they're scared of Kenya. Wait a minute, you invest in Kenya and you're scared of Kenya? That doesn't make any sense. So. If you're going to come into Kenya, go into Kenya full on.
It's a control thing, right? Surely.
Yeah, but, so one of the things that I talk a lot about with the impact investors and other foreign investors is you have to, if you're going to make the ecosystem grow, you also have to make the investors grow locally as well. And so investor training or whatever you call it, we did that with NAF Capital. Like that's very, very important. So not only you have to train the investors locally to understand the issues, but also let them make mistakes. So there's actually a phrase I heard once in Silicon Valley where like the cost to train a new VC is like $50 million. Did you know that?
You're speaking in terms of the amount of money, the amount of money he or she would need to make mistakes to the point where they actually make something work.
Yep. So with Savannah Fund, I would say that our first fund has been basically like, what can we learn and do, in Africa, and then when it gets more serious, then I think there'll be more controls. But you have to make those mistakes. There will be mistakes, and Ghani's, maybe one of many, right? I mean, there's some that you don't hear about, right? Many you don't hear about, and it's also stories of investors losing money. Why is it that when founders get screwed over, apparently, then the big story is made? Why about investors losing money?
Oh yeah, that's generally because we don't care that someone's got like one less mansion to recline to on the holidays and stuff, I guess.
But you don't think about the fact that when an investor loses money due to corruption or bad governance, that they may not be follow-on which is Eric's blog, saying that if we start demonizing foreign investors, then they won't come back.
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
These people have a lot of money, but they're also looking for returns. So if they get returns, you get more of that. So it scales, right? So actually, I think, yes, these people can afford to, because risk capital is a very crazy beast in investing. It's very small, right? And it's money that can actually be lost, right? So I don't get my investors coming to me saying, hey, Angani is a total disaster. What the hell happened? Because, and I report it, but they go, oh, so actually when I report my fund to my investors, like, and it's all good news, something's wrong.
Like what is he not doing right?
We are a risk fund. We're not like save your grandmother's money fund, right?
It's expected. And so what I'm hearing from you,
but so I'm not going to name the company, but we've had out of 21 investments, one investment that the money just disappeared, just ran away, like just gone home. It's not Angani or anything. Angani is still around. The company, it's still, we'll see how it goes. But this is a company that and that's something that we don't want to happen ever again. Thank God it only happened once out of 21 times so far in 3 years.
That's pretty good going. And so,
so like me reporting that to the auditors in Mauritius, for example, where our fund is, they probably find that also strange because they're not used to startups. So who in the chain understands startups, right? So that's actually one of my least favorite activities to do is to audit. Who likes auditing here? No one, right? But I have to do it as a fund manager, and that's really annoying. But you have to do it. And so we're doing auditing, and basically one company came up and was like, "What about this company?" And I said, come on, guys! Like this is like just next because this is a complete write-off. Do you want me to write it off now or tomorrow? It doesn't matter. Let's just write it off, and that impacts the fund. But having and that's the first full 100%. It was accelerated investment. Being an investor is tricky, right? It can be tricky.
So let's talk about broader issues in this East African tech ecosystem. Such an interesting place to be at the moment, right?
It is very interesting.
So let's talk about something specific. These mobile operators, right? I mean, West Africa is burning up. East Africa is following suit. Is this a trend?
MTN and Safaricom and just the recent moves with startups or fines or what?
Pretty much. I'm looking. There seems to be a trend, and tell me if you think it's a trend. Is there a trend towards forcing these hugely successful entities to start to account?
So I just think it's a giant chess game that you need to understand how the pieces are moving. So, for example, MTN going to Nigeria and having getting to this position they've gotten to and getting fined shouldn't be a surprise when you think about the fact that it's a South African firm in Nigeria. Like my dad always.
So you are saying there might be a political thing there.
Market issues. So I'm going to bring up something very important. You will see. You probably saw me tweet about this a lot or post it. I teach a non-markets class in Stanford. You know that, right?
Yes, that I'm aware of. Yes,
and it's my
that's your alma mater, correct?
Yeah, it's my favorite thing to do, and when I'm in Silicon Valley, is to walk into this class of like innovators, MBAs who are like, want to like bring Bitcoin to Africa, and guess what? And the last time I brought a Bitcoin, Tawanda from BitFinance was there, and the class is about entrepreneurship in emerging markets, and that particular segment I teach is about non-market issues. So I also worked in aerospace, and aerospace is also very non-markety. Because you have, for example, yesterday I was glued.
Just ask Elon Musk.
Instead of writing the welcome emails for AfriCoin last night in my hotel room, I was watching Syria vote because I was like, shit, this is going to be big. Like, Britain going to war. This is Britain saying we're going to war. and there's implications there. So I think about investing in the ecosystem in tech in Africa, particularly in fintech, the same way, right? The same way. Like I think about what has Safaricom got to lose? What has the government of Nigeria got to lose, right? So this is hilarious. And I feel really bad about this. There was a conference on about in Abuja, right? It was actually one where I was going to talk about something really nerdy. I get to be nerdy and talk about like platforms and Xiaomi and, how Android and how it's open innovation. And it was all fully paid for. They were even going to give like speaker fees, which I didn't really want, but I was happy to get paid to go, to my accommodation covered. And they had to withdraw that because the Nigerian government were like asking for like back taxes and back rent on the land. Because the oil price took a dive like 6 months ago, and now they have budget shortfalls in the government, and now they're looking for every single way they can get revenue. The Nigerian government looking for every single way they can get revenue. They have to. Before they weren't as hungry for that. So that is definitely an influence as to what happened with MTN.
And if you're looking from the outside in, you're looking for a sort of straight line between this and that, and there's a million things.
Other issues, for example, like I noticed when I arrived in Lagos recently, and I got my MTN SIM card, I got it very quickly and easily within less than 2 minutes, and it wasn't registered. And the Nigerian government is worried about that. So they worried about Boko Haram, and they worried about what it means to have unregistered SIM cards. So this is to their credit.
And MTN doesn't care as much, let's be honest.
Yeah. They want to make so you have two sides. You have the government wants to make more government revenue. Maybe they're using this to like extract a massive fine from a big war chest of fund, of MTN. And also they also care deeply about Boko Haram. So they have to really understand who's calling who. And so these issues come up. So let's go to Kenya now, right? So in my first 3 months in Nairobi when I moved there, I did not go and meet them at all, or I did not want to go and see them.
Why?
Because I knew that Safaricom was already like a big. I always work at Microsoft as a product manager for Excel, which is again a dominant software platform. If I'm going to try and build like the Google Docs spreadsheet, I'm not gonna try and work with Microsoft in any way. And that's what I saw when I go to Kenya. I'm like, look, M-Pesa's great, it's amazing. People try and build on top of it, but at the same time, it's very closed. Right? Because I remember when I was a product manager at Microsoft with Excel, how hard it was for startups to try and integrate with Excel, right? It was really, really hard. And when Google Docs came out, that battle was like shaping out very, very crazily. So I take competition, non-market issues very seriously into when I invest in Africa. I don't think it's a surprise. So let's move into like BitPesa and why they're suing Safaricom. We looked at BitPesa, we did not invest, right? We have a policy. Again, it's number one policy is like Africans in Africa, which by the way might help you with non-market issues. Surprisingly, right? If I invest in Tawanda in Zimbabwe with Zimbabwean indigenous, he might get a nice wink or favorable thumbs up from a central bank versus like a foreigner coming in. But I'm also a foreigner operating in Kenya, so like I have to be careful work permit issues, So like it's really complicated. You have to think about these things. Like,
so why didn't you invest in BitPesa?
We didn't invest in BitPesa. The first reason I mentioned is like because it was not a local founder, which we believe is important when you have no market issues with the local country.
And you think that factor played into the troubles they're having with Safaricom? What about Lipasha?
So Lipisha actually we accepted in the first accelerator, so I know them both, those companies. So I think with Lipisha, I think it's just the fact that they're picking on Lipisha, Burundi to get to, because of course Lipisha was the majority business was going through BitPesa, right? BitPesa was the biggest client.
But what do you make of a company like Safaricom being in a position to do that on the issues? I mean, this is also following what a judge in Uganda just ruling against MTN, essentially malicious activity, anti-competitive activity. Is there no? Would you say that there is a fundamentally problematic issue with bullying tactics when it comes to mobile operators in East-West Africa, perhaps even further down the equator?
They're trying to thrive. They understand disruption is coming, right, in their space, whether it's Bitcoin in mobile money or whether it's like other issues, or WhatsApp, for example, right? They're probably, I think WhatsApp was a really big event when they got acquired by Facebook.
Shame. Here, Vodacom and Cell Cs and even MTN is going, regulate them, poor guys. Shame.
By the way, I actually think that Vodacom here is probably overcharging me on my data.
Can I just confirm that they are? Well, let me just take that back. I want to get sued. They totally are.
Because I was in South Africa last in September, and I bought I think 3 gig for like what 200 rand or something like that, to 300 rand.
That would be a lot of data for that much money. You probably got charged a whole lot more. $200 for 3 gigs?
Something like that, right? Yeah, but that's enough for a week for me to like do my, and I did it, right? But this time around, I've spent way more, like it's the same device. It's an iPhone.
I don't know. What can I say?
And I'm also in Wi-Fi half the time as well, like here, like in Apple Code, right? So anyway, so I think that these mobile operators are reacting in weird ways to innovation from startups, and I think they're also at the same time trying to build up their innovation strategy around hubs and funds. So take Safaricom with their new fund. So like as much as I think Safaricom can be a bully, they also are trying, right, with their fund. And so with the Sendi deal, which is actually the proudest Kenyan deal that I've done, I think, like it's because Safaricom is there, and that was their first investment out of their fund, which we could see coming up, right? So it's like in venture capital, you want to have a good network of people with you. So like here in Apple Code, like I it's great to meet like the RMI guys, Barclays, Warren, because and I get a Joburg like feel. I've done that in Cape Town. I know like Knife Capital, Justin Sanford. I know the Inventfin guys. You have to know your investors, and if it's corporate, it's even more important. So Safaricom, I think, have been playing. It's like one hand doesn't know what the other one's doing, right? So like Safaricom is a big corporate, and M-Pesa does one thing, the corporate venture capital side does another thing, and they don't necessarily communicate. So for example, one of my questions I always ask like a Sendi is like, how much is Safaricom helping? In every single way, right? Are they helping you? Are they helping you with work permits if you're a foreigner like Malaika? Are they helping you with M-Pesa integration? Can you fast track the what are they doing to help? Are they helping you with like distribution?
Or is it just token investment to try and look good?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I don't know yet. But like in South Africa, it's more serious for sure. Like the people I meet here who are doing corporate investment, like Inventfin from Remco, is more serious. I think Barclays and obviously RMI is more serious. You just see Dominique like on the panel, like she talks the talk, is serious about fintech. But in Kenya with Safaricom, they still don't understand what it means to be. For example,
there's an us in them, definitely.
So Safaricom, like if you buy a company like Kopo, that would be like a very positive move. They're like, oh, but that would be balance sheet issues and weirdness. I'm like, but you said you asked me how can you do to improve? I told you buy a company. Google Ventures buys and they invest, right?
That's right.
So if you want to be like Google Ventures, which is the gold standard of corporate venture capital, you have to like do both. So the other thing as well, which came up today in today's AfriCoin, is that not every telco or bank has an M&A corporate dev division.
Wow.
You need a team that has blanket trained and experience to go around working with startups. And they are basically able to tell you, look, I represent Safaricom or MTN, and we are looking at investing in a company or acquiring it. Let's talk. And dedicated team. It can't be like a one-off thing that happens or a CSR thing. So they came up today, like, should you sell out to or buy? It is, it's hard, like, but it's not mature yet in Africa, right?
Can I talk about something that came up in actually a question that I asked at AfriCoin earlier on? All this buzz around Bitcoin and the blockchain, and I did.
Just like last year, we had noise. Someone thought it was like Tron. They're like, "This is not Tron." They said, "Bitcoin."
Did you just say I made a lot of noise? Is that what you said?
Yeah. No, we know. So I actually, with the big, I like AfriCoin so much because we always position the Bitcoin panel nicely in the middle after lunch, so like gets energy pumping, and everyone's arrived, and so
I was the firelighter today.
Pesa was in the first AfriCoin panel in 2013, and it was similar. And then we had BitX and a bunch of others in Cape Town, and it was similar. And this time around, we have banks in the room, and it's still similar.
So can I ask you what I asked? What my issue was. So you had all these players. You had institutional players. You had some startup founders for these platforms, all sort of creating applications, Bitcoin applications, snazzy things, all sort of saying that Bitcoin is the future, the blockchain is the future. Talking. My question basically was, show me how everything you're talking about isn't just another layer of fat over the problems that the developing world is having in creating an inclusive environment for the poorest of the poor. Show me how Bitcoin answers that question. And tell me how the gradual adoption of this technology by incumbents we already don't trust is somehow going to make anything better for anybody on planet Earth.
So this, I think after a while, after I heard you speak and we chatted a little bit afterwards, I understood your question quite well. So finance is this like, I think at the heart of it is like, are there stonemason people out there that control the economy globally or in Africa? I don't know.
I'd say yes, but carry on.
Yeah, so I think that's the heart of the question.
Did you really? I mean, did you really say you don't know? Come on.
No, like, is Bitcoin just another tool to? Is Bitcoin helping or making that problem worse? Is it democratizing finance, or is it making like, I think for a developer who's a geeky and has played with the protocol, they would say absolutely helps you jump on and build a fintech product. But you still operate in a world where central banks exist, Safaricoms exist, now market issues exist, right? And that's actually why we chose Zimbabwe with BitPesa. So with Bitfinance over BitPesa in Kenya, that was actually a choice that we actually made at Savannah Fund. I'm saying this now. We actually, in the Stanford case study that's going to be made public, available over it, we made that choice. And the students have to decide. Yeah, and basically we say that we think that Kenya is very, very crowded, and Safaricom is very, very weird in how they operate. And they're very defensive of M-Pesa. And although Elizabeth and her team at BitPesa are awesome, we just don't think that's a great... We could be wrong, and I'm fully fine about being wrong, but we just thought it was more interesting to explore a local founder in Zimbabwe where there's chaos in the financial ecosystem with 7 currencies, which you heard today. And so that's kind of how I look at it. I don't think... I think the fact that BitPesa is trying to sue Safaricom shows that if Bitcoin wins, it could threaten M-Pesa and undercut them, right? So, for example, I bring this up a lot. The fact that in Tanzania we have 3 or 4 mobile money players competing, and it's half the fees. Remember, I'm Tanzanian, so I use mobile money too, but and it's half the fees to move money around. Whilst in Kenya, you have a monopolist, and the fees are more expensive. Why is that? It's structure of the industry, right? And so I think Bitcoin offers like another alternative to put pressure on fees, which also I think helps keep them on their toes, innovate, and be more inclusive. So I think the other part of your question is also like, I think you mentioned that accessism does not equal
inclusion.
I also agree. Like when I walk into a bar in Cape Town as a black person and it's all white, like I can access it, it's there, and I can walk in, but it doesn't mean it's inclusive when I'm in the club. I totally understand that aspect. And I also think even venture capital, what I do can also be included. There are many things in life where there's a club-like environment, right? And I think that there is an element of that for sure. Like, so I actually was really interested in doing Africa and Joburg because I was like, actually, this is the Wall Street of Africa. Like Sandton, this area here, Sandton, is the Wall Street of, and there's so much financial power in here, and so I was super interested to bring it here and see what people. But it would seem to be pretty interesting, right? Like,
and no one answered the question. For the record, no one really answered the question, and so.
I mean, so I get very nervous about people that so back to your question more deeply. I am suspect of the World Bank. I'm suspect of like the new BRICS Bank. Those are people where I'm like, okay, they maybe hold way more. So I was talking to Tawanda earlier about like, and Vusi, both from Zimbabwe. Right? I was like, but I heard the World Bank just gave you guys like a thumbs up on like repaying. So they said, no. We just we negotiated that they would repay some loans, which might open us up to borrowing more. Right? When you look at Magufuli in Tanzania, right? What will Magufuli do? Is he doing this austerity madness? Like, you're not allowed to, the government's not allowed to send Christmas cards, apparently. That was the latest thing
Are you serious?
No. Independence Day, you also have to make sure no parties just, work in your garden. But I'm certain that
eat a carrot.
I'm certain that he's doing that because he knows that if he shows austerity, he'll get massive loans from the World Bank to be able to do what he wants to do. So I think Zimbabwe, from what I got from Tawanda and Vusi, is that the World Bank is interested in talking to them, but only if they start paying back their loans, and that's another kind of like carrot stick weird thing.
And I mean, the other side of my question was, let's be honest, where's the computing power, the world's computing power concentrated? It's in the same countries that essentially run the legacy systems that have failed us and are backed by the very people who got us into crisis, in the last 2 decades. So how does Bitcoin, how do applications around the blockchain help address that? And for me, it's, yeah.
So it's actually a standards thing, right? So this is something that I actually find fascinating, right? So I remember the days of VHS and Betamax. And then also, I was a big minidisc fan. I don't know if you remember the minidiscs.
No, I don't.
Yeah, like
that's how forgettable it was. No, I do, but that's how forgettable it was.
Betamax was Sony, and minidisc was Sony. The compact disc was more open, right? VHS was, I think, more open. I think, yeah. And so we have the same thing happening in fintech now. Like, is M-Pesa, is M-Pesa Blu-ray? So Blu-ray is the latest Sony thing, right? But actually
closed as anything, and yes, M-Pesa would be Blu-ray.
Yeah. And so you have to ask the question. So I think that's why I want to plug in Stella, right? Which is, I think I mentioned earlier, right?
You did. You mentioned it in a competition in our conversation earlier.
And because the last time I was at Stella was really hilarious. In Silicon Valley, I walked into their office. And there was a power cut I'd never seen a power cut in Silicon Valley before, like in San Francisco. And I was like, I walked in the African, I brought power cuts, and engineers were complaining that, oh no, like I got 3 hours power on my Mac, I can't I'm like, and Joyce, the executive director was like, you have 3 hours of power, like the power will be back in an hour, like, and you're like, and so he said, that's it, you have to go and deploy, you have to go and spend time in Africa. So Stellar is actually an interesting cryptocurrency protocol and network that's trying to be, I think, maybe Joyce and Jed will say I'm saying this wrong, but I think they're trying to be the Wikipedia of cryptocurrency, right? So they're trying to, and they've structured their company so that it's very clear who owns what and who benefits from what. Because I think I talked to you earlier, like with Bitcoin, we don't know who owns the Bitcoins. We don't know, all this Bitcoin spreading and promotion by folks on the startups. Are they just trying to get Bitcoins in the hands of more people, which then brings the price up?
You're just trying to get us all on board. They want us to be enthusiastic about basically, they're trying to get us all to assign value, essentially.
So Stellar takes that away completely.
So where would we be in a world where Stellar wins?
I think it's the same world where Wikipedia wins. Like where, when you search for something, who's the president of South Africa, or you type in Nelson Mandela, you get in the first couple of links, you get and it's crowd-funded or so crowdsourced information. So I think with Stellar, we come to a way with zero fees, there's zero who's benefiting from what, very clearly. The mining pools are very clearly defined who's making money off what. Yeah,
I suppose I really shouldn't go as far as this, but I mean, it's a complicated thing because, I mean, we need to go as far as, look, if we go as far as, again, looking at this locus of control issue, there are places in the world where electricity, basics, like, will I die of malaria this year? You know what I mean? How pertinent to someone who's living with that basic fundamental is what we're calling the next wave of freedom and access.
So we talked about this as well. So I'm skeptical, even more skeptical than you are, when it comes to the philanthropists, right? We talked about this a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's even worse. Yeah.
So I think they're great. They've done great work, like Bill Gates or Zuckerberg.
Of course, he's giving away all 99% of his wealth. We love him, right?
So again, just like any non-market issue, you should be asking questions when a media network's investing in Paga, right? Are they laying the groundwork for eBay to come in?
Flippinginternet.org.
Have you looked at and actually Sarah Lacey of Pando Daily has written about this quite extensively with India. I've gone Modi, I think, was involved in a media network, I think, look up the facts. And as soon as Modi became president, didn't they lift all the foreign e-commerce barriers?
Oh my word!
Oh, not markets. Oh no, not markets. It's life.
I have a lecture on such things.
Yeah. It's but the thing is, it's people are self-interested, right? And you could hide behind the financial inclusion narrative, and we help.
Internet is a right for all.
Yeah. So when I went to India, I was shocked actually. So I went to India for medical tourism with family. Apparently that's a thing which I guess it is. But I went to a e-commerce site. I forgot the name of it. What's the biggest one in India called again?
Oh yeah, the Amazon. No, not Alibaba. They're an Amazon competitor.
Forgot the name of it. But so I was looking for a Xiaomi phone because back then I was like, whoa, Xiaomi! I want a Xiaomi phone, and I kept seeing the Xiaomi phones low rated. So I mean, if you Google like on Amazon or search on Amazon an iPhone, it's probably gonna be like highly rated. Like it's not gonna be 1 star. Like, oh, this phone sucks. Like, no. So I saw all the Xiaomi phones on the site. What's it called again? We need to find out. Like
I'm checking. I'm on Google. Amazon's biggest competitor, Flipkart. Yeah.
And so I read the comments of why they're rated 1. Just like when you look at a hotel and you say, why is this hotel like 2 stars, 1 star? And someone says, this hotel is terrible because it's on a hill and I'm fat and I can't walk up the hill. That's obviously not a good way to rate a hotel. So I found the same thing with Xiaomi. They said, people were saying, we're downrate. We don't want to buy anything from Snapdeal. Sorry, it's what's it called again?
Flipkart.
Because they are supporting internet.org. They allow you to browse. We can't compete. So it must have been like people who wanted to support Indian e-commerce startups that were not deal with Facebook. And so I was like, that's when I was like, wow, in Africa we're so behind on this. When internet.org adds like adds an OLX, which they do, right?
Oh my word!
Have you thought about what an OLX is not a charity? It's not Wikipedia. It's not. Yeah, put Wikipedia on internet.org and Free Basics because that's a non-profit. But if you put OLX on there, that's not like a charity. Zero reader. So that's the issue.
No, that's helping nomads in the Sahara sell their camels and stuff. Come on, guys, what's wrong with you?
It's 200. Naspers owns it. Like it has local competitors. Exactly. Yeah.
No, I'm being seriously tongue in cheek.
So I think internet.org's biggest battleground in Africa will be Tanzania. Actually.
Are you guys feisty like that?
No, we're not. But I think it's because Tigo is doing so well there.
Ah, I see.
Whilst so for example in Kenya, Airtel is what of course Safaricom is the dominant one. So actually, Safaricom would never let. I don't think they would.
Actually, I find your honesty with regards to these issues quite refreshing. And
non-market issues. It's something that I grew up in with working in the aerospace industry. It's something that, like I said, we mentioned before. Is there a guy in the cigar room in Andersanton who controls all of Africa's finance, or is it Washington, or is it? Oh, is laughing at us, being like, "Oh,
Grayston Drive, running the continent."
Some of them are very obvious if you look deep enough. Like when you see this, the Flipkart thing. When some of them are also very obvious when you look at the structure of the industry in Safaricom and they play in. Some of them are very obvious when you look at like banking and how it works,
or infrastructure. And look at the rollout of this whole digital, the whole analog to digital thing. I mean, it's pretty much Korea's got that on lock.
Yeah, and so the thing is, like, this is actually quite easy. Like, take all that and make it influence your strategy as whatever you're doing. So Savannah Fund actually has lots of foreign investors, but we try and brand ourselves as the Africans in Africa. So back to why did we not invest in BitPesa? And not only BitPesa, it's hundreds of others. I get them all the time. I'm a Finnish company coming to Africa. I'm a British company coming to Africa. I get tons of them.
Are you enough now?
We just don't do it. It's a decision we made as a fund. We like as Savannah Fund, we fund locals in Africa because we think the next Jack Ma will be African.
Probably, and therefore you've been sitting here for a while now.
The of Africa should be African. And if that happens, that person probably will invest in their own, and we want to be that part of that change. But unfortunately, this is kind of where like people bust my bubble is that Africa is full of stories of foreigners exploiting Africa. So one of the things that I do a lot as a venture capitalist, which I've been advised by some mentors, is to read history, right? So I've been reading history of Africa. So every country I go to, I read the history, Zimbabwe, South Africa, and you always have these issues. Like, so I actually was quite depressed recently because I read this book, History of Africa. It was The Fortunes of Africa, right? About the economic, growth of Africa, for thousands of years. And I realized that for the first chapter of Africa, it was all about slaves, gold, and ivory.
That's all anyone cared about.
I want to take you back to the Bitcoin issue. And
I want to be part of the change that goes to reversing that and allowing Africans to benefit from Africa and own. And so that is so actually the end game for Savannah Fund is maybe our fund 3 is we have local LPs, pension funds. Then it's so money. So when a Westgate happens, or when a Safaricom or the central bank is assessing like whether they should sue BPS or not or whatever is what's going on, there's those things are factored in, right? Because ultimately, look at Donald Trump. He's probably doing well because he's so American, trying to be so Americanized, right? Because
Absolutely.
no Syrians, no less, no that, no Mexicans,
And he's driving.
So it's like I think ultimately in Africa that's what needs to happen is that we need to move to a model where Africans investing in Africa, but it takes a while to get there. Sorry.
But we demonize people who want to do that. But we'll get to that one day. I want to take you back to Bitcoin. I've seen there's examples of Forex. So if you're doing remittances from the US and transferring money and you want to send money to Zimbabwe, for example, they'll send US dollar, exchange it into Bitcoin, and it gets sent to the person in Zimbabwe in Bitcoin, and obviously it gets changed back to what my question is mainly what's stopping. I mean, it's very easy. This is tech. It's software. What's stopping any African developer to come up with Bitcoin or blockchain related solutions? Not only on the fintech side, but also on the identity side or anything like that. It's just software.
That's actually an interesting question. Actually, it's talent. The only place where I've seen strong enough blockchain talent is actually Stellenbosch, Fire ID plus talent. I've not seen it anywhere else. The Bitsoko, who are speaking at Africoin, I think tomorrow. Maybe one in Kenya that I've come across where I literally was walking around the University of Kenyatta and I was like, whoa! And the professor was like, this guy received $100,000 from Bill Gates Foundation. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. So there's funding going into development of that. But, we've also seen blockchain or Bitcoin academies or schools. I've been seeing a lot of that in South Africa. That's great. Alpha Code maybe is going to be helping with that. I don't know. But ultimately, I think it's a matter of like you have to understand the tech. And it's also it's very cutting edge. And a lot of it's controlled, as you mentioned, not necessarily on our soil.
See, this brings me back to the same issues around access and inclusion. And
so by the way, this is kind of like really hilarious because people always ask me, "Is Africoin a real currency?" I'm like,
no, it's not. That would be an event, folks.
But if I was to do that, which I might, I would have to go away for a long time, maybe like 3 weeks, or maybe even I don't know. It's a lot of effort.
Or would you create your own blockchain and then what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, people are asking, is Africoin like the currency? But you know how this thing is all these things are kind of joke, right? So by the way, like Weebly is my joke where I create joke sites. So Africoin was one of those. Like we're discussing with some friends about Bitcoin and someone said, someone said, hey, what about Africa's own cryptocurrency? And then Africoin. And so I was like, oh, that's so cool. So I went to Weebly, bought but then of course I was like, I need a fintech event. I'll use Africoin. The other one is actually Bank of Mbwana.
Bank of Mbwana.
Bank of Mbwana, that's my latest one. And that was after a Zim trip, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. So a Zim trip, I noticed that obviously they use dollars there. And I also know from Tanzania that the different rates for different dollar denominations and how clean it is. You know that, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and so I was like, literally in Zim, I was trying to pay some bills with the dirtiest dollars I had and keep the cleanest. So when I go back to Tanzania, I can use my clean dollars to exchange into local currency. And I was like, whoa, maybe I should create Bank of Mbwana where I just clean bills. Because people are telling me like, hey, like, why don't you just clean them up? Like, and of course the reason why the bills are dirty is because there's no central, the bills are printed in Washington or whatever in the US. They're not printed here. And so if they're in the Simpson for too long, they get dirty. And so I created this joke site. You can go on it. Look at it on here. bankofmbwana.com. Mbwana with a B because, and basically what we do is we take your dirty old dollar bills and turn them into Bitcoin. And and so like, maybe one day I will, create something out of it. But yeah, bankofmbwana.com. So no M. So because Mbwana means Mr. So Bank of Mr. or Master, because all the Kenya, in Swahili. So, which is one of my biggest pain points. People always don't like to call me Mbwana because they think they're saying that. Yeah, it is though.
It's Mbwana Bank.
Yeah, Mbwana. Oh yeah, okay, but it's called Bank of Mbwana.
Dude, that looks legit right there.
And look at the bottom.
Bank of Mbwana is not registered as a financial entity anyway or in any country. It's supported by Africoin.org.
Look at it. Trade in your. This is a picture of me separating my old bills. Clean is there. These are like dirty,
Dude, so how much have you made, man?
Like no. I got people emailing me saying like, hey, like, yeah, I want to use this system, or like, this is not legal. All the different questions. But yeah, that's why I put in this afterwards. I said we're not a financial institution.
Can we keep it as a joke so you stay out of jail, please?
Yeah. So sign up. What does sign up actually do? I think it launches like a very simple. What is it? Oh, it's email ad. Trade.
Oh, so all you gotta do, folks, is trade at mbwanabank.com. You're so going to jail if you make this real.
Yeah.
You'll get the FBI all up in your business, sir.
Yeah, but I mean, it's back to the question about like, but that's one example.
No, but it's brilliant, and it's a great
It's an African problem. I mean, dirty money, or dirty as in literally dirty dollars, is a problem, and cleaning them up.
There's always who's gonna hold the last $1 dirtiest note that's gonna fall apart in half? Someone's gonna hold it.
Not me.
Back to you. It's not gonna be the richest person in Africa. It's gonna be the poorest person in Africa who has that.
Oh.
Because remember, how do I get these dirty notes? I get them when I buy some fruit in the street,
Change in the minibus taxi.
and I get these dirty notes. And so this was like a really frustrating thing. I was like, I can't believe it. Like, there's all these dirty notes that are being traded because Mbwana has no currency, and so that the dollars constantly be going through. But then I can't, in Tanzania being snobbish, the Bureau de Changes don't want to trade any old notes. So that also makes it hard for the Tanzanian who's poor, So why don't you just turn it on to Bitcoin, and then they can do something else with it?
Sure.
Financial inclusion with Bitcoin.
Okay. You wanted to challenge my thinking around financial inclusion and access.
On Bitcoin, I mean, he's just given the answer in terms of a lack of talent, and the talent, for example, in South Africa is focused in Stellenbosch or the Western Cape. So given that it's focused there and the demographics of Stellenbosch, it's highly unlikely that you're going to get solutions developed out of Stellenbosch for poor Africans to include them into using technologies like Bitcoin to their benefit.
Oh, good. So you're kind of supporting the notion that, look, I suppose and this is me. Someone after my question pulled me aside and said, "You sound socialist." I'm like, I'm not socialist. No, I don't sound socialist.
I'm the biggest socialist here, man. I'm Tanzanian.
So therefore reckons, please, I'm the socialist who sneaked into.
You somehow didn't detect. We have a socialist a Bank of Mbwana. We filter Africoin. Make sure that you don't show up to Africoin and like.
You just need to add a little line here endorsed by the Zimbabwean socialist living in South Africa, aka Andile Masuku. Yes. So listen, that's pretty much it. Listen.
This was good. This is.
Did you say you enjoyed it? You were off mic.
No. I really do enjoy it. It was great. It was funny. We touched a lot of interesting topics from non-markets, indigenous innovation. The big players, small players, foreigners and locals. It's, these are the issues that affect Africa Tech right now, right?
And we're loving it. I want to close out with what you'd say, and please don't make reference to anything you're currently invested in because you're obligated. But what would you say is what are you most enthused about as a trend? We're seeing VOD as a huge trend. We're seeing mobile money as a huge trend. We're seeing Bitcoin in terms of fintech. What are you excited about besides Bank of Mbwana? Bank of Mbwana.
Logistics is actually quite interesting.
Logistics? Are you talking about order fulfillment? Are you talking about what are you talking about?
Yeah, I think anything that gets something from A to B in Africa efficiently is a huge value.
So Udala just sent their first parcel. It was a Nokia phone, apparently. They sent one by drone to some dude. They did that last week. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about, or are you talking about more nuts and bolts?
Logistics is probably one of the underlying themes in Africa Tech that, if solved, will unlock even more things, from e-commerce to back to making sure that we look after the bottom of the pyramid, like medicines in remote places.
Bananas that come from West Africa through Africa to the southern part of Africa, as opposed to via ships or through Europe.
Logistics is one of the areas where I do think there is a cigar guy, like, who is controlling a monopolist logistics operation and not. So, for example,
Based in Singapore, of course.
So I actually learned this not recently, like over a while, but like how much are ports in Africa hamstrung by the fact that they are people who are sitting on, like, they purposely like make you go through like storage and rack up the fees. So if you are, say, for example, shipping, like, I don't know, rice or bananas or iPhones or Xiaomi's into Africa, and the person in the port is able to influence how long you stay in the port, and hence they can extract value from that, from rent, and then the final price of that rice, banana, or Xiaomi phone is 20% more because of the inefficiency of the port, because of no market issues of someone sitting on like a bit of storage. Like, they happen to own all the storage around the port, and so they're able to like extract a toll.
And let's talk about how Africa is only invested in something like.
This is the same as the police asking for a bribe, actually.
Pretty much, and I mean,
It slows you down. It's down at the bottom level. This is just the trade aspect, the moving things around aspect.
And Nigeria, of course, announcing earlier this year that they're thinking about having drones monitor the airports for that very reason. But I mean, let's talk about. I mean, then it's issues like. No, let me not go socialist on this one, because I'm going to go socialist again, and I'll be accused. Yeah,
it's okay. Like, I actually think Africans are programmed in some way to be a little bit socialist. I think. I mean, the Chinese act of very socialist in the beginning, right? But then they're capitalistic at heart. But I think just the way the continent has developed, you do have a socialist, nationalistic mindset.
And I mean, logistics being controlled. I mean, the statistics are staggering. Less than 10% of the entire value chain, in the entire sort of shipping business, the maritime business, relating to Africa, having nothing to do with Africa and not benefiting us in any way. I mean, how that can't be an issue to some people, I don't know. But I can understand why you'd pick logistics. I know Strive Masiua of Econet, he said he'd be a farmer. You wouldn't farm? You don't think food, agriculture might be a big thing you'd be excited about?
It's big. It's very, very big. Ag is big.
So big that perhaps like him, you might think about if you were to do all this over, you'd graduate from Stanford and go farm and not start a venture capitalist fund?
I might do an ag fund.
Stay VC though.
So I like venture capital because it's fundamentally an allocation resources game. Back to the whole socialist thing.
You're actually controlling the whole thing, really. Is that what you're saying?
Socialism, seen as quote unquote bad. One of the theories is that the system does not allocate capital well, resources well.
And I suppose with minds like yours, you can make it work, I guess.
It's one way to allocate resources into innovation. It's not the only way. There are other players doing it. There's crowdfunding as well, right? And so the crowd can actually speak. But it's just one function, right? An ag fund would be great. But guess what? Back to your whole, like, who's controlling it. So you do see me sometimes in a suit. So I'm only in a suit for two reasons. Weddings and maybe funerals, and raising money at very weird places in the world.
Like Monsanto, if you did an ag fund.
For example, I'll give you an example. So there's a conference that happens in Amsterdam every year, the Emerging Markets Private Equity Conference. And do you know how hard it is for me to get a visa these days to go to Europe?
Really?
Look at me and they say, wait a minute, you're going to Amsterdam, then you're going to like Berlin to see some startups there, then you're going to like to London or something. This is way crazy. Like, you should be doing one thing, or maybe go to the Belgian or the German embassy to get the other visa, because we don't deal with people like you, right? So the biggest thing that annoys me the most about just about how the control thing works is that how much of things go outside of Africa, events outside of Africa. So and actually, I'll give you one really good example to close off. I had this trip planned to Angola because I've never been there before, and it's very hard to get to Angola, as you probably know. And at the same time, I got a White House invitation. It was one of those, do you remember that event 2 summers ago, 2 Julys ago, where all the Africa in Washington event? You must remember that.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yes, actually. Yeah.
So like people email me like, "Hey, are you going? Are you going?" All these venture capitalists, like the Steve K, all these guys were like going, and they're like, "Are you going?" I'm like, "No, I've not been invited. I'm going to Angola, man. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, a week before the event starts, I get an email being like, "You're invited to some event at the White House," and I'm like, and my instinct was like, "Whoa, yeah, this is it. I'm going," and then I said, "No, I'm going to Angola. I'm gonna be in Africa. I'm gonna stay in Africa and do what I'm meant to be doing." And I told my dad this. He was like, "What? Why are you not going to the White House?" I'm like, because actually at the heart of it, we always have to travel outside of Africa to do fucking Africa stuff. No.
Enough.
So, and I was actually 100% right. Well, I went to Angola and I learned more about Africa going to Angola than I did by going to the White House.
Wow. And that's a pretty great place to end this little conversation. Dude, I mean, it's been so refreshing.
I still got a lot to do the US and other places, but it was just, I had to make a decision. Do I take my passport out of the Angola process? The visa took 3 weeks. Or do I go to the US? Or do I just stick on Angola? I said, no, I'm going to stick on Angola. AfriCoin is happening in 3 countries for a reason. I want to do more in Africa for a reason. Like, we should have less things going on in Africa, outside of Africa. That would help a lot.
The Africa CEO Forum in Geneva. Jeez.
See you there, and I'll proudly show you my visa. I got it. I got my visa.
We're here. We're free, boys.
And then also I'll land in Geneva, and I'll be like, "So what are you doing here?" I'm here for the Africa CIO Forum. Are you sure you're not immigrating here for some other reason?
Are you sure you don't want to stay here? Don't you like snow?
It's Lisbon. In Lisbon for Portugal, my visa took so long to get. And then I got to Lisbon, Portugal, and I realized that there were poorer people in Lisbon than parts of Africa, That's the bit that really kind of shocks me, is you spend all this time getting to this gold place, and there were actually like marble tiles in Lisbon, right? They have but you see poorer people in Europe now than parts of Africa.
We're good here, guys. We're good. Yeah, anyway. But listen, thank you so much, man. Mbwana, how do you say your surname? Is it Alliy?
Yeah, Alliy.
Alliy. Mbwana, Alliy, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. All right, man. Enjoy the rest of your time here in Joburg. Anytime you want to be around, man.
Joburg is good. I'm going to be back here a lot. So Fast is my friend, by the way.
I beg your pardon?
Fast is my friend.
FastJet is your friend. Oh, you're not invested in them?
No. They just get me from Dar es Salaam to Joburg very quickly and efficiently and cheaply.
Oh, that's very nice.
Than any African airline?
Back to the whole control thing. South African Airlines, do you think they probably are upset by FastJet, which have slashed the price of a return flight to Dar es Salaam?
They probably are. But to be honest, they probably have bigger fish to fry at the moment.
$800 return to go normally sometimes, Joburg, Dar es Salaam. Whilst with FastJet, you can get a flight as low as $100 one way, $120 one way.
Sick. That is absolutely sick.
So who's helping VCs scale across Africa more, FastJet or the World Bank?
No, I'd say FastJet.
So I have my friends. That's why I say FastJet's my friend, because they really help me get around. I mean, it's not an endorsement, but it's just getting around Africa is hard.
Logistics. Back to what you said.
Why did I have AfriCoin in 3 countries? Because I was writing visa letters for Kenyans to come to AfriCoin Cape Town last year. I'm Tanzanian, remember. In Tanzania and South Africa have a special relationship. No visas.
Oh, yeah.
So it was really weird being in Cape Town in this hotel and being like, yes, I would like to invite Ken Jeroge of Cellulant to AfriCoin. Here's my South African number. I am living in Cape Town, or I'm staying in Cape Town. That's very strange. To run a conference on African innovation in fintech. Why that is ridiculous. I have to do that. So I said, no, this year we're going to do 3 locations. So
so nobody has to feel that the indignity of feeling like an outsider on their own continent.
And it was pretty funny because I had to get Ken's wife as well a visa because he wanted to go to Cape Town and shop and tourism and all that. No, I don't want to be doing that. That's not what. It's just one of those things. It's like Africa is challenging to scale. It's
frustrating. It's
one of the biggest challenges. How do you integrate more? And players like FastJet help. Let's
just hope they survive because I don't know. I don't know too many. I don't know smart money that's investing in airlines. I'm sorry.
That's another question. It is a legitimate concern. Yeah,
we're hoping you stick around, FastJet. Stick around for us because we want to hit Lagos. We want to hit Lagos. We want to hit. Do you know it's funny that we haven't even had a discussion about Dar? And I have to be honest about this at all. We were thinking even Accra was sort of
the Miami of Africa.
Dar is the what?
Miami of Africa.
Oh, so we might just because we were thinking Lagos, Cairo.
It's lots of interesting women there. It's good.
You're not selling this for my wife, though. Or Defos.
No.
No. That pretty much... He just made the trip die a natural death.
You should bring them to and go to Zanzibar.
There you go. He's back in. He's back in. Did you see that? Quick recovery right there. My dude, I'm going to have to switch this thing off because...
By the way, just another FastJet thing. They fly direct now to Zanzibar from here.
Are you serious?
I'm telling you, these guys are innovating on airlines.
Who are these people? Who are these people? No, it is, man.
1,700 rand one way.
120.
And I said yesterday, will South African Airlines let them?
No, Mango's flies to Zanzibar, yeah.
So no market. Will they let them?
How long will they let them?
The landing license of FastJet was revoked on my first flight to Joburg, so they had to compensate me for free fly and my money back because the SA Airlines apparently did some weirdness to block FastJet's first entry. Non-market issue.
All right, my man.
It's everywhere unless you're president.
of Mbwana land. Of Bank of Mbwana. President of Mbwana Bank, man. Yeah, check it out, mbwanabank.com. That's so sick. The dude is a riot. Man, I'm glad he's planning to spend more time in Joburg. He knows where it's at, man.
Yeah, and a big shout out and thank you to Mbwana. And he joined in, no issues, and we had a great conversation with him.
Once again, folks, this week's African Tech Roundup is supported by Google, who are teaming up with us to give away a pair of their sought-after virtual reality viewing devices. They're called Google Cardboard. And we're giving them away to 2 lucky African Tech Roundup listeners anywhere on the African continent. Sorry, folks, if you're listening to us anywhere else but Africa, sorry for you.
Yeah, we are the African Tech Roundup.
So all you have to do to win one is, besides being in Africa, is answer these 2 simple questions. Number 1, how much does MTN now need to pay the Nigerian Communications Commission after they reduced the fine they imposed by 35%? Number 2, how much is Naspers looking to raise to fund its expansion plans by floating 17.1 million ordinary shares? How much is Naspers looking to raise to fund its expansion plans? Now, if you know the answer to those 2 questions because you've been listening so intently, please do email hello@africantechroundup.com. That's hello@africantechroundup.com. We can't wait to verify your answers and declare you the winner. Thanks once again to Google. Google Cardboard, of course, brings immersive virtual reality experiences to everyone in a simple and affordable way. To find out more about these snazzy VR devices, head on to google.com/get/cardboard. That's google.com/get/cardboard.
And that's pretty much today and probably the year's live recorded shows.
That's right. Remember, we'll be away for 4 weeks over the festive season, but I bet you won't miss us much because we'll be sharing great content from the annual Roundup 2015 starting next week.
As we said earlier, next week we'll kick things off by sharing a chat we had with the Senior Investment Executive at RMI Holdings, Dominique Collet-Antolique, who was sitting on a panel with CEO and founding partner of Convergence Partners, Brandon Doyle, and they were chatting about tech in the enterprise and big business, focusing mainly on fintech and telcos.
Definitely don't want to miss that. It's been an awesome 7 months. It's been incredible coming live to tape every week so far. Like I said, we're definitely not leaving you without something to keep your ears buzzing.
And also do follow us on social still. We'll still be very much active on there. And enjoy your holidays. Please come back safely.
If you're doing any traveling, we wish you all the best and all the safety and amazing festive season. Happy holidays to you all. From me, Andile Masugu.
And me, and don't eat too much turkey, otherwise you'll look like me. Cheers, guys.
That would be definitely more happy. Have a smashing week and an awesome holiday, folks.